Welcome back to the War Room. We're doing another army review, and today we're going to be looking at the new Kharadron Overlords book. It's been a minute since we've done one of these. I apologize. Things have been a little busy in real life. We've been doing a lot of painting, prepping for the Las Vegas Open here in a couple of weeks, so that has taken a majority of our time. But we're super excited for this book. I think they're still really cool, and they have one of the best regiments of renown that we've seen so far. So very excited to dive into this book and kind of see what these guys do on the battlefield. So let's hop right into this. Okay, so we're going to start here with the battle traits. The first one is called Sky Vessel Cover. This is a passive ability. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target friendly Kharadron Overlords infantry units while they are wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Arcanaut Ironclad or Arcanaut Frigate. So keep your guys close to your boats. They're going to be -1 to hit, which is great because this army has a ton of shooting and you can keep guys away from you. So you're not going to get outshot necessarily with these guys, which is great. And then if they get into combat and these guys are wholly within 6, -1 to hit. And then flying high, this is once per battle per army in the deployment phase. Pick a friendly sky vessel that is in a regiment from which no units have been deployed. Then pick a number of units up to its transport capacity that are in its regiment. Set up all those units in reserve in the clouds. They have now been deployed. In the deployment phase, you can take any of your sky vessels, so the Ironclad, Frigate, Gun Hauler, and any units up to its transport capacity. Put them off to the side. And then you can use Descend from the Clouds. This is in your movement phase. Pick a friendly sky vessel in the clouds to use this ability. Set up that sky vessel anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Then set up all other units that were set up in the clouds with that sky vessel wholly within 6 inches of it and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So essentially you can just drop down, deep strike anywhere on the board outside of 9 inches from enemy units. And then all the guys have to be wholly within 6 of the sky vessel, also outside of 9 inches of enemy units. So you can kind of surprise people if there's a flank that's weak, whatever. If there's not a whole lot of guys on an objective, you can drop down close to there, shoot them off, and maybe try and charge onto the objective and take it. So kind of a fun little mechanic there. And then the flagship, this is once per battle per army in the deployment phase. Pick a friendly sky vessel to be the target. The target can be in reserve. The target has the flagship keyword for the rest of the battle. Give the target 1 Great Engine work. Designers note the Great Engine work is given to the unit during the deployment phase, not during army composition. It can be given to the target even if it already has a Great Engine work. So we'll get to what engine works here are in a little bit. And then Transport Skyfarers, this is in your movement phase. It's a reaction when you declare a non-charge move ability for a friendly sky vessel. Pick a number of units up to that sky vessel's transport capacity that are wholly within 6 inches of it and not in combat to be the targets. Units that have been transported this turn cannot be the targets. Remove the targets from the battlefield. After the sky vessel ends its move, you must set up each target unit on the battlefield wholly within 6 inches of that sky vessel and not in combat. Those units have been transported. A unit cannot use charge abilities if it was transported in the same turn. Redeploy, move, runs. As long as it's not a charge and it's a move ability, then you get to swing guys that are wholly within 6 around. You just can't swing them into combat. And we'll get to that. We'll clarify there's a couple exceptions there, but we'll get to that in a second. Moving on to the battle formations. First one is Pioneers and Scavengers. Friendly Von Grimm Harpoon Crew and Von Grimm Salvagers units have a ward of 6+ while they are contesting an objective. There's not a lot of ward saves in this army, so anything that can give a ward save is great. If you want to play a ton of the Harpoon Crew, giving them a ward save is going to keep them alive a little better. The next one is Rapid Redeployment Squadron. Friendly Grunstock gun haulers can transport up to 2 friendly Kharadron Overlords infantry units instead of 1, and with a model count of up to 6 instead of 5. So it doesn't seem like very much, but essentially it just means that they could take a unit of 5 guys and a hero. And then Veteran Ground Troops, once per turn per army at the start of battle round. Pick up to 3 friendly Arcanaut Company units to be the target for the rest of the battle round if the target has not been set up this battle round, and while it has not moved this turn, subtract 1 from Rend characteristic of attacks that target that unit. This seems really nice. The Arcanaut Company are not the most elite units, it's kind of just like your basic infantry. So if you wanted to run a spam of a whole bunch of these guys, that's a pretty good way to do it with this battle formation. And -1 rend is just super good, especially considering a lot of these guys are going to have 3-up saves or 4-up saves. -1 rend, give them an all-out defense. It's essentially -2 rend. It's very, very strong. And then the last one is Engineers Guild Expeditionary Force. Pick a friendly, non-unique Kharadron Overlords hero that does not have an artifact of power. The target can be in reserve. Give that hero 1 artifact of power from the inventions of the Skyports. The designer's note here, the artifact of power is given to the unit during the deployment phase, not during army composition. So it's nice that some of these things are in the deployment phase, not in army composition, because it means you can kind of look around and see what your opponent's doing, how your opponent is deployed, and then adjust a little bit, which is very nice. Those are pretty good. I like the gun haulers getting 2 infantry units instead of 1. Like I said, if you're running Arcanaut Company, them being -1 to rend if they haven't been set up. If you're not running them alongside boats or anything, you're just kind of running them up the battlefield, sitting them on objectives. Making them -1 to rend is really strong. But we'll move on here to the heroic traits so we can kind of look at what you could do if you wanted to run the Expeditionary Force to get another artifact of power here. But heroic traits, Shrewd Opportunist, this is in the deployment phase. Pick this unit and up to 2 other friendly Kharadron Overlords, non-hero infantry units to be the target. Each target can immediately use a normal move ability as if it were your movement phase. So this is just like a pre-game move. Your dwarves are slow. If you wanted to run the Arcanaut Company, not with boats necessarily, and you wanted to do this, you could kind of get them up the board a little quicker. You're not going to be struggling for movement in this army. It's one of the fastest armies that exists. The next one is Bold as Brass. Add 5 to this unit's control score. Games Workshop keeps trying to do this control score manipulation thing. I don't really think it super matters, but 5 to a control score is huge, especially considering if you have a boat with a hero on it, you're going to be very hard to take objectives from. So if you want to sit on circles and just play the control score game, that's one you should take. And the last one is Combat Grafter. Once per battle in any combat phase, this unit can use 2 fight abilities this phase. After the first is used, however, this unit has Strike Last for the rest of the phase. We see this a lot. A lot of different heroes have this ability in their War Scroll or the chance to do this with a heroic trait or something. Pretty good. The bread and butter of this army is not necessarily your heroes, it's your boats. And it's how you move around and manipulate movement phases to win games. So I would probably go with that one or the Shrewd Opportunist just to kind of move up the board a little bit and threaten things, but I don't think any of those heroic traits are very good necessarily. And then Artifacts of Power. This is a once per battle reaction. When an opponent declared a spell ability for a wizard within 30 inches of this unit, that spell is unbound. So it's just a once per battle automatic unbind, which is very strong because there's a lot of times where your opponent will be looking to get one specific spell off, and this, no matter what, just unbinds that spell, even if it is, rolled on a 12 plus, which is pretty crazy. And then the Celestium Burst Grenade. This is once per turn in your shooting phase. Pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Ward rolls cannot be made for the target for the rest of the turn. This seems really strong because it's once per turn in your own shooting phase. It's not a once per battle thing. As long as you're within 12 inches, keep in mind this is after you've moved because it's in your shooting phase. Can't make ward rolls. And if we flip back to the Expeditionary Force, you can give 2 heroes an artifact of power. I would assume it means you can't take the same one twice, but the Burst Grenade, I think, is an auto take. You have to take that in this army because turning off ward saves is huge. So take that for sure, no matter what. The last one is Blazebeard and Sons Bamboozling Flat Gun. Once per turn reaction. When your opponent is declared a charge ability for a unit within 12 inches of this unit, pick 1 dice in that charge roll, then make a Bamboozling Flak roll of d6. If the roll equals or exceeds the value on the dice, remove that dice from the charge roll. You got a really high chance of making it a 1d6 charge. There's a lot of times someone rolls a 1, 2, or a 3. If you roll a 4 or higher, snag that die, and then it's just whatever's on the other die. So that one's pretty nice. I think the automatic unbind would probably be what I would go with for a second artifact of power if I was taking it. If I had to rank them, the Burst Grenade is 1, the Voidstone Orb is 2, and then the Flat Gun is 3. That's probably how I would rank those. Moving on to the Great Endrin Works. This is kind of how you can enhance your sky vessels, your boats. And so you can pick one of these and give it to a sky vessel, and then whatever your flagship is also gets one. And so you can put two of these onto your flagship and make like an ironclad just super, super strong. These are so fun. This is like such a fun part of the army, I think, is being able to upgrade your boats because all the boats are on a 2-up armor save already. So giving it one of these or giving it two of these with your battle trait is just so cool. So the first one is Hegson Solutions Old Reliable Hull Plates. This unit has a ward of 5+ against damage inflicted by shoot abilities. So it's not a 5-up ward against everything, but against shooting. Like I said, I don't think you're going to get outshot with this army because this army has so much shooting. Your shooting is stronger than everybody else's. But if you come against another army, let's say, for instance, Cities of Sigmar right now with the cannon build, a 5-up ward against shooting attacks is really, really good. It forces them to probably shoot into your units, which then you can rally back and heal. And then the next one is Gruxon's wide bore cylinders. Add 2 inches to this unit's move characteristic. This used to be a battle formation where all of your boats just had +2. Now you can give one of them +2, which is really nice. I'm not sure you can give a Great Engine Work to one sky vessel and then with your battle trait give the same engine work to a different sky vessel. I think once you've picked one, you can't pick the same one again. And obviously they don't stack, so you couldn't put the same one on twice onto a vessel. But this is a very good one because your boats, they're not so fast, but giving them 2 extra movement makes a huge difference. And especially as you're whipping around the board and you're swinging guys around as you do any sort of move with your boat, extra 2 inches to get those guys closer to things is really strong. Get them in within their shooting ranges to be able to blast things. Very, very strong. The next one is Colbeard's Collapsible Bomb Rack. Add 1 to each dice roll when using this unit's heavy bomb racks, medium bomb racks, or light bomb racks ability. We'll get to those in a second. It's essentially as you fly over something, you have a certain amount of dice that you roll depending on which boat you are. And I think it's 4-ups do mortals normally. And so this one, you just add 1 to the dice roll, so you'd be on 3-ups or whatever. Very strong as well. You can just keep dropping bombs on people, and it's mortal wounds, so they can't do a whole lot against it. The next one is Tracer Fire Rounds. This is in your shooting phases. It's a reaction when you declare shoot ability for this unit. If all of the attacks target the same enemy unit, ignore negative modifiers to hit rolls for those attacks. So you can't be negatively affected to hit, which is very strong considering that a lot of this stuff is hitting on 3s or 4s. If you get a -1 to hit thing, it puts you up to 4s and 5s, and it makes it really tricky to get damage through. No negative modifiers is excellent. And then the Grandiose Fuselage is the next one. Add 5 to this unit's control characteristic. Another control score manipulation. A lot of your boats already have a decent amount of control, especially like the Ironclad. The Ironclad is just so good. I love the Ironclad. I think the Ironclad is the best thing in this army, and it's just a giant boat, which is pretty fun to just have zooming around on the board. And it's control 5. The frigates also control 5, so making each of those control 10. The gun haulers control 2, so giving it 5 to make it control 7 is pretty awesome, considering you're also going to have units around your boat as well. Very strong. And then the Nullstone Galvanization. This is at the end of any turn, inflict d6 mortal damage on each enemy manifestation within this unit's combat range. This is kind of just an anti-manifestation thing, nothing too crazy. As far as engine works, my top one would probably be the move characteristic one. The next one would probably be Tracer Fire Rounds. Tied for third, I would probably say, would be the ward save against shooting abilities, and then the bomb rack, adding 1 to the dice roll is very strong. If you wanted to just be quick and zoom around and drop bombs on people, that's another way to really do that and get some more chip damage into people. So now we're going to be on to the War Scrolls here. There's not a ton of them. They don't have a whole bunch of units, but they did get some new guys, which is really cool, and now you can actually see their faces. They're not wearing helmets, which is very, very cool, and I think the sculpts are really fun. But we'll start off here with Brock Grungson, the Lord Magnet of Baraknar. 12-inch movement, 3-up armor save, 8 health, 2 control. He is your War Master, and he is unique, so if you're taking him, he's going to be leading your army. For ranged weapons, he's got Grungson's Boast, 18-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, Ren 2, damage D3 +3. That's his big cannon. And then the Magnet's Charter, 12-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. And it does have shoot in combat too, which is nice. So if you're in combat with him, which he does hit pretty hard, he can also shoot as well. And then his melee weapons, you've got Brock's Aethermatic Saw, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 2 with crit 2 hits. Brock is awesome, just his War Scroll. It's a little scary being on 8 health with a 3-up armor save and no ward save. He does a lot of good things for your army as a whole, and he buffs a lot of different things. So his abilities, he's got Command the Fleet. This is once per battle in your movement phase. Pick up to 3 visible friendly sky vessels wholly within 24 inches of this unit that are not in combat to be the targets. Each target can use a run ability and still use shoot and or charge abilities later in the turn. That's super good. Once again, your boats are going to be the focal point of your army. How your boats do is how your army is going to do. And so if you bring Brock, giving your boats run, shoot, charge is so strong because they're already going to be moving a ton. Giving them a run, they can move, I think, up to 18 or so inches and then shoot and then charge. So you can really zoom across the board with this. Next ability is First Rule of Grungson. This is in any combat phase. Pick up to 2 other friendly Skyfarer units within this unit's combat range to be the targets. Add 1 to the attack characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. So your Skyfarers are essentially everything but the boats and the faction terrain. So +1 attacks in combat. Very strong, very good. And then the mustache-mounted Aether Blasters. This is at the end of any turn. Pick an enemy in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. So if you get stuck in combat with Brock, he's just going to be chipping away d3 2+ mortals as you go. I love Brock. Brock is cool. He's a cool model, and he really is a good buff piece for this army because he makes the boats better. He makes your units better in combat. Very strong. Then next up, we've got the Arcanaut Admiral, 3-up armor save, 4-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. So he's not very fast, whereas Brock was moved 12 because he's got he's a bubble boy. But this Arcanaut Admiral is just running around on the ground. For ranged weapons, you've got the Masterwork Volley Pistol, 10-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, with shoot and combat, which we love. And then for melee weapons, he's got the Skalf Hammer, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 3. Abilities, he's got the Admiral's Flagship. This is once per turn per army in your shooting phase. Pick a friendly flagship wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target for the rest of the phase. Each time the target uses a shoot ability, you can reroll 1 of the hit rolls made for that ability. This is great because most of your shots are going to be hitting on 4s. So being able to reroll 1 of those hits gives you a chance to get a little extra damage in, and you're going to have a ton of shooting. So your flagship is going to be really important here. And then bring every gun to bear. This is once per turn per army in your shooting phase. Pick a friendly sky vessel wholly within 24 inches of this unit to be the target. For the rest of the turn, add 1 to the characteristics of the target's ranged weapons. So Brock gives the run, shoot, charge to 3 sky vessels. The Admiral gives +1 attacks for ranged weapons to 1 sky vessel. So you just keep this guy right next to your flagship, and you just let your flagship go to town on people. You have a beefed up ironclad, you put both of your engine works on it, and you just keep this guy close, and it's just going to be tearing things apart, which is super fun. Next up, we've got Drecky Flint. He's got a 3-up armor save, 4-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. So once again, not a very fast boy because he's running around on the ground. But for ranged weapons, you got the Aethermatic Equalizer Mach 3, 10-inch range, 2d6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, with shoot and combat. And then for melee weapons, you've got Grunson's Axe, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 3, with anti-monster +1 rend. He's a monster hunter, so rend 2 into monsters in melee, which is awesome. Once again, shoot and combat. Shoot and combat is just an awesome ability to have, and with this army being as shooting heavy as it is, a lot of things have shoot and combat, which kind of helps you out a lot. So Drecky is the captain of the Ailsling. This is in the deployment phase. Pick an Arcanaut frigate in this unit's regiment to be the target. This unit can use this ability while in reserve, and the target can also be in reserve. The target has the Ailsling keyword. Add 1 to the damage characteristic of the target's boarding weapons for the rest of the battle. He's got his own special ship. If you're bringing a frigate and Drecky, make that frigate the Ailsling, +1 damage to the boarding weapons, which the boarding weapons aren't super good, but being damaged, I think, 2 on those can help. And then she can handle it. You can reroll run rolls and charge rolls for the Ailsling while it is wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So you just keep Drekky nice and close, and you can reroll runs and charges. And then the auxiliary Skyhook. This is in any combat phase. Pick an enemy monster in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+. Inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. And then subtract 1 from wound rolls made for the target's attacks for the rest of the turn. So, considering most monsters are going to be wounding on 2s, making them wound on 3s is a huge difference. Or if they're wounding on 3s for whatever reason, making them wound on 4s makes a huge difference. The mortal damage is kind of whatever, but the fact that you can -1 to wound is really strong. So Drekky is really good if you think you're going to be playing against a whole bunch of monsters, which right now the move is kind of a monster mash, is what a lot of people are doing. So take Drekky. Drekky's cool. And then next up, we've got one of the new units, the Null Chemist. 3-up armor save, 12-inch move, 8 health, 2 control. I love the look of this model. I know a lot of people are like, he can't even see out of the tiny little window in the front of his face. But I love the like old school diver look that he's got. I think it's a ton of fun. And it's not on a flying stand, which is great because the flying stands I know are very controversial, a very hot topic. I play Idneth Deepkin. I don't mind the flying stands as much. I know people just don't like the look of it, but that's neither here nor there. So ranged weapons, you've got the Null Gas Extinguisher, 8-inch range, 3d6 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1, with shoot in combat, which we love. And then melee weapons, you've got the Prospecting Clamp, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2. His profile is okay. I don't think the Null Chemist is a guy that you really are going to want in there. But the Protection of the Void, while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit, friendly Skyfarer units have a 5-up ward against mortal damage inflicted by spell abilities, prayer abilities, and abilities used by manifestations. So he's kind of your anti-magic guy now. And so he'll give a little ward save if people are getting hit by spells and whatnot. And then the Null Suit, double the damage characteristic of this unit's attacks that target a priest, wizard, or manifestation. So this is very similar to what Callus and Toll have. I know Callus and Toll have been a menace in 4th edition so far, especially at the beginning. The Regiment of Renown is so good. But this isn't just in combat. This is all attacks. So it's shooting attacks, double the damage into priests, wizards, and manifestations. So I like the Null Chemist a lot. I think it's very situational what he's going to be doing. And I love the model. Next up, we've got the Endrin Master with Dirigible Suit, 12-inch move, 3-up save, 8 health, 2 control. It's got the Aether Cannon for ranged weapons, 18-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3. And then the Dirigible Suit Weapon Battery, 12-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, with shoot in combat. And then melee weapons, you've got the upgraded Aethermatic Saw, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 2. Pretty strong profile there. It's very similar to Brock, just a little less good, and he doesn't have as many buffs as Brock does. But mobile repairs, this is in your hero phase. Pick a friendly Sky Vessel or Zontari Endrin Dock within this unit's combat range to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+, heal the target for 3. He's just over there fixing things up as you go. And then Combat Engineers, this is once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick this unit and up to 1 friendly Endrin Riggers unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the targets. For the rest of the turn, combat attacks made by the targets against enemy units that charge this turn have crit 2 hits. So if you're taking a charge from someone and it's Endrin Riggers or this guy, you get crit 2 hits, which is nice. It sucks that you're getting charged, but you get crit 2 hits. And a lot of these heroes are going to have 3-up saves. A lot of the units have 3-up saves or 4-up saves because they're dwarves. So like they're just tough to get through all this armor. Moving on to the Etheric Navigator, 3-up armor save, 4-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. For ranged weapons, you've got the Ranging Pistol, 10-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1. For melee weapons, you got the Zephyr Scope, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage D3. He has Aether Sight, so this unit can use Unbind abilities as if it had Wizard 1, because there's no magic with these guys. They're dwarves. They're not about that. But if you have this plus the Artifact of Power that's an automatic Unbind, you potentially have 2 Unbinds. The Places of Power also give you an Unbind, which is nice. So you don't have to worry so much about having enough unbinds to be able to handle someone else's magic. There are options, which is nice. And then he has Read the Wind. So once per turn per army in your movement phase, pick a friendly sky vessel or auto engine within this unit's combat range and is not in combat to be the target. Remove the target from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Then if the target is a sky vessel, you can remove this unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield wholly within 6 inches of the target and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So this just helps you kind of teleport some of your airships around. He used to have the ability, they changed it looks like, where he could give bonuses to boats. He'd roll a certain amount of dice and give bonuses to his own sky vessels and minuses to enemy units for their movement, which was really nice. It was really strong too, because you could get your boats up to like movement 18, I think, without having to run them with the battle formation. It was a whole thing, and so it was really annoying. But now they changed his thing a little bit, so now he can just teleport a sky vessel around. So I don't think we're going to be seeing him as much. His ability previous to this was very, very strong. I don't think we're seeing it as much anymore. And then moving on to the code right. 3-up armor save, 4-inch move, 5 health, 2 control. Ranged weapons, he's got the Aether Shot pistol, 10-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1 with shoot and combat. And then melee weapons, he's got the Battle Tome, he's going to smack you with the book. 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage D3. And then he has the advisory role, so once per turn per army in your hero phase, pick up to 3 visible friendly Skyfarers units to be the targets. Roll a dice for each target. On a 3+, pick one of the following effects to apply to that target for the rest of the turn. The first one is Seek New Prospects, add 5 to the target's control score. Don't Argue with the Wind, add 1 to run rolls and charge rolls for the target. And there's no trading with some people. The target can use a retreat ability and still use shoot abilities later in the turn. In addition, no mortal damage is inflicted on the target by retreat abilities. Adding 5 to a control score seems good. +1 to runs and charges is awesome. But I think that last one there, where you can retreat and shoot and not take mortals, is awesome. It's not retreat, shoot, charge, unfortunately, so you can't back up and then go back in again. But they can retreat and you could send something else in to go fight whatever that unit was fighting. We're going to talk about him in a separate video when we get to the armies of renown and the regiments of renown. The KO regiment of renown is very, very strong. I think we're going to see it a lot here in the next little bit. So keep an eye out for that video in the next few days. Next up, we've got the Endrin Master with Endrin Harness. 3-up armor save, 4-inch move, 6 health, 2 control. Melee weapons, he's got the Aethermite Hammer, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 3. For abilities, he's got Aye Captain, once per turn per army in your hero phase. Pick a friendly sky vessel within this unit's combat range to be the target. For the rest of the turn, the target can use retreat or run ability and still use shoot abilities later in the turn. No mortal damage is inflicted on the target by retreat abilities. Keep in mind, once again, this is not retreat, run, shoot, charge. So you can retreat or run and still shoot, but you cannot charge with the sky vessel. So just a heads up on that. But retreat and shoot with this army, I think, is going to be a big time key, so that you don't get your boats or your units stuck in combat. You retreat them out, take your guys out of combat, shoot again. And then mobile repairs, this is your hero phase. Pick a friendly sky vessel or Zentari Endrin dock within this unit's combat range to be able to target. Roll a dice. On a 2+, heal the target for 3. So another way to kind of heal your sky vessels or your faction terrain. Pretty cool. And then next up, we've got the Aether Chemist. He's a 4-up armor save, 4-inch move, 5 health, 2 control. Ranged weapons, you've got the Atmospheric Anatomizer, 8-inch range, 3d6 attacks. Hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 2, damage 1 with shoot and combat. Now the rend 2 on that is pretty gnarly. With 3d6 attacks, like he can pump it out and he can do the damage. It's 4s and 4s, hitting and wounding, and then the damage 1 is kind of meh. But the rend 2 there, I think, is going to be enough to squeak through a few damage every time you shoot at something. It's an 8-inch range, so he's got to be really close as well. Melee weapons, you've got heavy instruments, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage D3. For abilities, he's got the Atmospheric Isolation. Subtract 1 from charge rolls for enemy units within 9 inches of this unit. That seems pretty good, but it's only -1 to charge, so a little scary there. And then he has Etheric Augmentation. Once per turn per army in your shooting phase, pick a friendly Arcanaut Company unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+, add 1 to the rend characteristic of the target's ranged weapons for the rest of the turn. So +1 to rend on the Arcanaut Company is pretty awesome. Their normal pistols don't have any rend, so giving them a single rend is great. And then the Privateer heavy weapon has 1 rend, so making it rend 2. Pretty nice. Now we're going to be moving into the individual units. There's not a ton of them, and some of them are brand new units as well. So before they got all the new stuff, this army was just very, very simple and very bare, but very fun. So one of the new units, the Von Grimm Harpoon Crew, 4-up armor save, 12-inch move, 2 health, 1 control. Ranged weapons, they had the Skydrake Harpoon or Firearm. 12-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, with anti-monster +1 rend. And then melee weapons, they had the Pioneer weapons, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1 as well. And then in any combat phase, they can use the Light Endrin packs. If this unit is in combat, it can move 2d6 inches, but must end that move in combat. How I see it is you just take these guys with Dreki, since they're both anti-monster, and you hop in the Ailsling and you just go hunt monsters with this unit. I think that's probably the move. The 4-up armor save is a little questionable. I mean, a few of their normal units have 4-up armor saves, but with no ward saves, it gets really scary sending these guys into combat. Sending anybody into combat with the 4-up armor save is scary. Next up, we've got the Von Grimm Salvagers. 4-up armor save, 12-inch move, 2 health, 1 control. Ranged weapons, they've got the Privateer Pistol, 10-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1 with shoot in combat. And then they have the Von Grimm Cutlasses for melee weapons, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1 with crit 2 hits, which is nice. And then they have the Spotter's Flare Gun, so in any combat phase, pick an objective within 9 inches of this unit to be the target, roll a dice on a 3+, apply the following effects for the rest of the turn. Add 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Skyfarer units that target a unit that is contesting the target objective. And add 1 to the rend characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Von Grimm Salvagers and Von Grimm Harpoon Crew units that target a unit that is contesting the target objective. These guys, I think I really like the Salvagers, I think, more than the Harpoon Crew, because these guys, you say, that objective right now is what I need to go get. There's a whole bunch of stuff on that. I'm going to make all my Skyfarers going to be +1 hit on that. And then the Harpoon Crew and the Salvagers are going to be +1 rend onto that unit as well. So I think that's really strong. Anything that gets you +1 rend, very, very good. I give that 2 thumbs up. So I think I would take more Salvagers than the Harpoon Crew for the most part, because you can kind of take these on their own. But I think the Harpoon Crew with Dreki is kind of a fun little like crew on the boat. Next up, we've got the Arcanaut Company. These guys are just like your typical dwarves, your basic infantry. You can just run a bunch of these guys. So 4-up armor save, 4-inch move, 1 health, 1 control. So for ranged weapons, each model has a Privateer pistol and an Arcanaut hand weapon, and then 2 out of the 10 can replace their pistol with the heavy weapon, and then 1 out of 10 can replace both their weapons with the Sky Pike, and the champion cannot replace their weapons. The Privateer pistol for ranged weapons, 10-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. And then the Privateer heavy weapon, 15-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. And then melee weapons, you've got the Arcanaut hand weapon, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. And then the Sky Pike, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2 with +1 damage on the charge. And then they have Grizzled Buccaneers. Once per turn per army in any combat phase, pick an enemy unit that charged this turn and is in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. This unit can immediately use a shoot ability as if it were your shooting phase, but all of its attacks must target the target enemy unit. For the rest of the phase, this unit's Privateer heavy weapons have shoot in combat. So this is nice because normally, like in the combat phase, you would be able to shoot without shooting combat, and you wouldn't be able to shoot. This ability just lets you shoot immediately, so if you are in combat, your heavy weapon gets to shoot, which is nice. That was a little confusing in my brain kind of reading through that, but that makes sense now because you get to immediately shoot, and then the heavy weapon gets to shoot in combat. And now we're going to get on to the bread and butter of this army, all of the truly fun stuff, the reason you're playing this army, the boats. So first one is the Arcanaut Ironclad. This is the big boat. 2-up armor save, 10-inch movement, 18 health, 5 control. Ranged weapons, you've got Aether Shock torpedoes, 18-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1 damage 2. And the Great Sky Ordnance, 24-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 3. Melee weapons, you got boarding weapons, 8 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. You don't want things to get in combat with this. You want to stay out of combat and just keep blasting away. It's battle damaged. When this unit has 10 or more damage points, the attacks characteristic of its Great Sky Ordnance goes down to 4. So you lose a couple attacks there. And then transport capacity. This unit can transport up to 3 friendly Kharadron Overlords infantry units with a combined model count of up to 22. So you could take 2 units of Arcanaut Company and a hero. You can take reinforced units of Thunderers, reinforced units of pretty much everything, plus a hero. Like, you can just load this thing up with dudes. And then incoming, once per turn per army in any combat phase, pick an enemy unit that charged this turn and is in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. So if you get charged, you do 2-up that many mortals, which is pretty awesome. It's not like a D3 2-up. And then heavy bomb racks. This is in your movement phase. Pick an enemy unit that does not have fly and that this unit passed across this phase to be the target. Roll 10 dice. For each 4+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. So an average roll, you're doing 5 mortals. There is the Great Engine Work to add 1 to this, so it'd be on 3-ups. So you do 6 or 7 mortals on average as you fly over something. Very fun. So if these things, you just keep tagging guys as you go with all of your boats, you just keep doing mortals to things. And on a 2-up save, like, this thing is so tanky. 2-up save with 18 health, no ward save, but it doesn't matter. 2-up armor save is tough to get through. And then moving on to the Arcanaut Frigate, this is the medium boat. 2-up armor save, 10-inch movement, 14 health, 5 control. Ranged weapons, you have Heavy Sky Ordnance, 24-inch range, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 3. Boarding weapons, 8 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. Its battle damage, when it has 10 or more damage points, the attacks of its Heavy Sky Ordnance goes down to 3. So you only lose 1 attack there, which isn't too bad. And then its transport capacity, it can transport up to 2 friendly Kharadron Overlords infantry units with a combined model count of up to 12. A unit and a hero, for the most part, or 2 units. And then it has the assault boat. This is in your charge phase. This unit cannot use this ability if it is in combat or has used a run or retreat ability this turn. Pick a number of units up to its transport capacity that are wholly within 6 inches of it, that are not in combat, and that have not charged this turn to be the targets. Then make a charge roll of 2d6. Remove the targets from the battlefield. Then this unit must move a distance up to the value of the charge roll and must end the move within half an inch of a visible enemy unit. Then set up the targets wholly within this unit's combat range. If this unit is in combat, the targets can be set up in combat and have strike first for the rest of the turn. This unit and the targets have charged. So this is the same as it was before. As your frigates charge, they dump off the guys, and the guys have strike first. It's so good because it's really just like a surprise mechanic. If you give the frigates +2 to move, they move 12. You can get that extra 2 inches, get a little closer for your charges, drop off the guys, and do a ton of damage striking first, which is very fun. And then incoming, this is once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit that charged this turn and is in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. So the same thing as the Ironclad had, 2-up mortals when something charges into you. You love to see it. And then medium bomb racks, it's the same as the Ironclads, except you roll 6 dice instead of 10. So once again, I know a lot of people are taking frigates as opposed to Ironclads because of the assault boat ability to make you strike first. More power to you. I am a big fan of the Ironclad. I like the smooth brain, big boat do damage, but I think the frigates was probably the more competitive choice with the strike first. And then we'll move on to the Grunstock Gun Hauler, the third of the boats. This is the small one. 2-up armor save, 14-inch move, 10 health, 2 control. So since it's smaller, it can move farther. Ranged weapons, it has Sky Ordnance, 15-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3. And then for melee weapons, you have the boarding weapons, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. The transport capacity on this is really small, just 1 unit with a model count of up to 5. And then it has long line slings. When you use the Transport Skyfarer's ability for this unit, you can pick units in combat to be the targets. So you couldn't pull guys out of combat with normal Transport Skyfarers, but with these, if you have guys that are in combat and then the gun hauler's just going to book it out of there, you can scoop up guys and get them out of there, which is very nice because this thing being movement 14, like you don't want this thing to be stuck in combat. You want this thing to just be zooming around the board and getting into the back line and being annoying more than anything. And then it has light bomb racks, so you roll 4 dice and 4 ups do mortals as you pass over units. And then Aether Shot Overwatch, once per turn per army in any combat phase, pick an enemy unit that is charged this turn and is in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a d3 and a 2+, inflicted amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. So it's not quite the same as incoming. It's a d3 2-up mortals, so a lot of times you're going to roll 1s and 2s and not do anything. But it's nice that as you're getting charged, you can do mortals back to them. And then the Grunstock Thunderers, 3-up armor save, 4-inch movement, 2 health, 1 control. For ranged weapons, each of them has an Aether Shot rifle, and then for melee weapons, each of them has a gun butt. But 2 out of the 5 can replace their Aether Shot rifle with an Etheric Fumigator or Deck Sweeper, and then 2 out of 5 can replace the rifle with the Mortar or Ether Cannon, and the champion cannot replace their rifle. So the Aether Shot rifle, 18-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1. The Etheric Fumigator or Deck Sweeper, 10-inch range, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1 with shoot in combat. And then the Mortar and Aether Cannon, 18-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 2. And then melee weapons, the gun butt, it's 1 attack per guy, hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, no rend, damage 1. These are your shooters. If they get into combat, you've done something horribly wrong because they will just not do any damage and probably die. So don't let these guys get into combat. And then Specialist Grunstock Ammunition, once per turn per army in your shooting phase. It's a reaction when you declare shoot ability for this unit. You can pick Shieldbreaker Ammunition or Thunderdrak Ammunition. If all of the attacks made for that shoot ability target the same enemy unit after the shoot ability has been resolved, roll a dice and add the number of damage points allocated to the target by that shoot ability. If the roll is higher than the target's control characteristic, apply the following effect to the target based on the ammunition type picked. Shieldbreaker ward rolls cannot be made for the target until the start of your next turn, and Thunderdrak, the target has a maximum control score of 1 until the start of your next turn. So I don't know why you'd ever use Thunderdrak. I mean, I guess if you're fighting stuff that doesn't have a ward save, you just make it control 1. But Shieldbreaker, turning off ward saves is very good. These guys are part of that Regiment of Renown that we'll talk about in another video. Very, very strong. Turning off ward saves is one of the strongest abilities in the game right now, and Games Workshop is really starting to write that into a lot of different rules for different armies. So keep an eye out for the Regiment of Renown video. It's coming. We're going to talk about these guys a ton in that video. But these guys are very strong. I think you'd be silly not to take at least 1 unit of them. Then moving on to the Sky Wardens, 3-up armor save, 12-inch move, 2 health, 1 control. For ranged weapons, each model has a Vulcanizer pistol and the Sky Pike, and then 1 out of 3 can replace their weapons with an Aethermatic Volley Gun and Gun Butt, and then 1 out of 3 can replace their weapons with the Sky Rigger Heavy Weapon and Gun Butt, and the champion cannot replace their weapons. So, for ranged weapons, the Vulcanizer pistol, 10-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, and the Aethermatic Volley Gun, 15-inch range, 2d6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1, with crit 2 hits. And then the Sky Rigger Heavy Weapon, 15-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage d3, with anti-monster plus 1 rend. Melee weapons, the Sky Warden Sky Pike is 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, 1 rend, damage 2, with charge plus 1 damage. And then the Gun Butt, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, no rend, damage 1. And then at the end of any turn, you can use timed charges. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. This unit can immediately use a retreat ability as if it were your movement phase without any damage being inflicted on it. So they blow up their little grenades that they have and get out of there. And then the last of the units are the Endrin Riggers. 3 up armor save, 12-inch movement, 2 health, 1 control. For weapons, each model has a rapid-fire rivet gun, an aethermatic saw. 1 out of 3 can replace their weapons with a volley gun and gun butt, and 1 out of 3 can replace their weapons with a heavy weapon and a gun butt. The champion cannot replace their weapons as per the usual. So for ranged weapons, the rapid-fire rivet gun, 10-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1. The aethermatic volley gun, 15-inch range, 2d6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1, with crit 2 hits. And the Skyrigger heavy weapon, 15-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage d3, with anti-monster plus 1 rend. And then the aethermatic saw for melee weapons, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, with anti-charge plus 1 rend. And the gun butt, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, no rend, damage 1. And the reason you're taking these guys is for this ability. So, emergency field repairs at the end of any turn, pick a friendly sky vessel or Zantari Endrin dock within this unit's combat range to be the target. Make a field repairs roll of d6 for each model in this unit. For each 4 or 5, heal the target for 1. For each 6, heal 2. So, you just keep these guys around your boats and in a place where they can just kind of hop around and go where they need to, and just keep repairing your boats at the end of any turn, which means end of every turn. My turn, your turn. They're going to be healing guys. They come in units of 3, so reinforcing would make them 6. So on average, you're going to be healing 4 health on your boats, which is really strong with the reinforced model. And then on to the final of the new additions to this army. I think this thing is pretty awesome, pretty cool looking. It's the Zantari Endrin dock and also the Auto Endrin. So we'll start with the dock first. 3 up armor save, no move, 10 health, no control. It's cover and impassable. So this is your faction terrain, obviously. So release the Auto Endrins. In the deployment phase, set up a friendly Nullifier Auto Endrin, Stun Cloud Auto Endrin, and Grudge Blast Auto Endrin. We'll get to those in a second. On the battlefield within friendly territory, wholly within 6 inches of this terrain feature, and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. And then repair routines. In your hero phase, pick a friendly sky vessel within 3 inches of the terrain feature to be the target. Make a repair roll of d6. Add 1 to the roll if there is a friendly Endrin Master with dirigible suit or Endrin Master with Endrin Harness within 3 inches of this terrain feature. On a 4+, heal the target for 3. So if you have an Endrin Master, they're close. On a 3+, you're healing 3. Problem with that one is things have to be within 3 inches of you. It's essentially saying, like, if you're taking the second turn and you get blasted with something and one of your boats takes a hit, you just run it over to this thing, repair it up real quick, let the Endrin Riggers repair it at the end of the turn kind of thing. And then the other ability is the Endrin Works Outpost. This is also in your hero phase. Pick a friendly Auto Endrin that has been removed from the battlefield to be the target. Make a manufacturing roll of d6. Add 1 to the roll if there's an Endrin Master within 3 of this terrain feature. On a 4+, set up a replacement Auto Endrin on the battlefield wholly within 6 inches of this terrain feature and more than 3 inches from all enemy units. Each friendly Auto Endrin can be replaced any number of times. So this thing in and of itself is not that good, but it's the Auto Endrins that make things go and make things work. So we'll move on to them now. 4 up armor save, 12-inch move, 5 health, no control. It has 1 of each, so it has the Nullifier, the Stun Cloud, and the Grudge Blast. So expendable munitions, the following apply to this unit. This unit has a maximum control score of dash. When this unit is destroyed or removed from the battlefield, it does not count as being destroyed for the purposes of other rules, such as scoring battle tactics. This unit cannot be picked to be the target of or affected by any non-core abilities used by other friendly units, unless the ability specifies Auto Endrin. So, as I understand it, that's like when you're moving and you're taking units with the boat. I don't think you can pick these guys. And then ignore this unit for the purposes of friendly and enemy battle tactics. So they can't affect, taking objectives. They can't affect units that count as having fought. They don't count towards like scouting force, that kind of thing. They can't affect scoring necessarily in the terms of directly scoring. And then once per turn per army in any combat phase, the Nullifier Auto Endrin, for whichever one it is, each enemy manifestation in combat with it is a target. Make a banishment roll of 3d6 for the target. If the banishment roll equals or exceeds the banishment value on the manifestation's war scroll, it is banished and removed from play. Then remove this unit from the battlefield. He's kind of your anti-manifestation guy. He'll just pick him up and take him with him. And then the Stun Cloud Auto Endrin. This is a once per turn per army in the combat phase. If this is a Stun Cloud Auto Endrin, each enemy unit in combat with it is a target. Roll a dice for each target. If the roll is equal to or lower than the target's health characteristic, subtract 10 from the control score of that target for the rest of the turn. Then remove this unit from the battlefield. So he makes a unit. He makes each unit minus 10 if it rolls lower than the health characteristic, which is like monsters and stuff, almost an auto, but infantry, it's going to not be able to do that as well. And then the Grudge Blast Auto Endrin. This is once again once per turn per army in the combat phase. If this unit is a Grudge Blast Auto Endrin, each enemy unit in combat with it is the target. Roll a d3 for each target on a 2+, inflict amount of mortal damage on the target equals to the roll. Then remove this unit from the battlefield. These guys are cool. They're fun. They're just zooming around the board. You just with one of them you're tracking down manifestations. With the other one you're probably going to monsters on objectives to lower their control score as much as you can. And then this one you're just trying to put in the middle of every combat that you can to try and do mortals into everybody, which is fun. So I really like this army. I think the models are some of the coolest. I love the boats. The boats are super cool. The new stuff that they've gotten, I think, is very usable and looks really nice as well. The Dock and the Auto Endrins, the Knoll Chemist, the Von Grimm, the Harpoon Crew, and the other guys. I think this army is going to be really fun to play. Our friend Ben just picked up a big army lot off of Facebook Marketplace of these guys. He doesn't have any of the new stuff, so we'll see how that goes. But we're super excited to have those and to be using them and get them out here on the channel here in a little bit. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get more long form stuff in. We're working out a way to do battle reports. We're just trying to find the time to do it. We almost have all of the equipment, so be on the lookout for battle reports from us. Leave a comment if you want to play this army. Leave a comment with the army you would like to see next. We haven't gotten to all of the old ones. We haven't gotten to all of the ones that have gotten new updates and books yet. So we're working on those. But we appreciate all of you guys taking the time to watch this video, and we'll see you next time.